Meeting to the Village Downtown Development Authority, October 16th at 7:35 p.m. Let's all stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Susan, can you do a roll call?
Sam Barnum? No.
Is excused.
Sue Basardi?
Here.
Rod Charles?
Here.
Dorothy Johnston?
Here.
Pete Schultz, not here. Susan Scher here. Elgin Nichols?
Here.
We need to make a motion to the approved proposed agenda.
So moved.
Support.
Moved by Basardi, seconded by Scher. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Anybody against?
I have to step away from that.
Motion carries. So, the approval of the September 18th, 2017 regular meeting minutes.
Make a motion that we approve September 18th, 2017 minutes.
Support. Any discussion on that? No. Okay. So, motion by Elgin, supported by Basardi. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, anybody against? Motion carries. Public comment on non-agenda items tonight? All right, so we're on to the consent agenda. The board chair report. Would that be Mrs.?
That would be you, but if you have nothing to report.
I do not have anything to report, and Chief is not here, so we'll move on to the next thing then. To the treasurer's report. Be the bills for September.
I make a motion that we, if there are no additions or changes, make a motion that we approve the bills for $11,955.22 for September.
I'll support.
So we have a motion to approve the bills for September. Motion by Elgin, supported by Basardi. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion carries.
You have to have a roll call on that?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
probably, sorry. Roll call, please.
Sue Basardi?
Yes.
Rod Charles?
Yes.
Dorothy Johnston?
Yes.
Elgin Nichols?
Yes.
Yes, for me.
Motion carries. And then on to the revenue expense report for October.
Make a motion that we receive and file a revenue expense report for October.
I'll support it.
So we have a motion by Nichols, supported by Basardi. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? And then code enforcement activity / police report.
We do not have a police activity report at this point. We are still straightening out administrative protocols with all new staff in their positions.
So just receive and file the code enforcement activity report, because we do have that.
Yes.
So can I make a motion, or does somebody else have to?
We can make the motion and then have discussion on.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to
Okay.
receive and file.
Okay. Motion by Basardi. Second by anybody?
I'll second.
Yeah, sure. Discussion?
I can't remember what meeting we were at, that we were talking about the trees. Or was it not at the meeting?
It was not in a meeting.
We are beginning to work on this. At the village council level, we're trying to get it down to having one grease hauler rather than many grease haulers. However, it's going to be a thing of educating businesses and their help with this, because we have constant complaints of the grease being transported across the bumpy parking lots in a wagon, and the grease is just slopping over, or they're pulling it on something. And so it's going to take an effort on the part of the DDA and the village council, I think, to do some education to the restaurant owners and their staff on the proper way to do this. So it is an ongoing issue, and we're still talking about it.
Madam Chair, the village manager and myself have set a meeting to develop a strategy, a joint strategy between the village offices and the DDA, and create an educational campaign and enforcement campaign, and look at how we can change what we're doing with regards to all of our dumpsters, recycling, grease, and otherwise.
Awesome. So, do we need to vote on this, or?
Yeah.
Okay, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Anybody against? Motion carries. Executive Director report?
What I've been doing for the last month is what you saw at the previous meeting.
Short and sweet.
Now, between Task Force and Scarecrow Festival went off Saturday.
Yeah.
Damp, but it worked. We had close to 150 people taste the chili. We had probably over 200 people in attendance when we hit peak attendance during trick-or-treating hours. The sidewalks were full of kids trick-or-treating, so I count that as a measure of success, regardless of the weather.
Right, that's awesome.
How did that compare with last year?
There were not any metrics from last year. There weren't counts that I could compare to. Anecdotal evidence says it wasn't as well attended as last year, but
But it never stopped raining, so that is
Yeah, it's-
awesome that
Right.
people came.
I mean, we ran out of chili, and I know the museum gave out 178 treat bags
Awesome.
that day, so that tells me
that was close to last year's where we had 225 was the
kids
count.
were still out doing the
That's great.
trick-or-treating, so.
Pretty resilient.
Yeah.
Little critters, aren't they?
I know.
One thing I wanted to report on is we've become very active on social media in the last 2 weeks, and this bodes well going forward for the Streetscape project. Is we're getting about 11,000 views per week right now on our social media, and we're getting much less of that in terms of engagement for shares and likes or such, but this bodes well for going forward when we create the M24 Streetscape Facebook page and the business retention page. So that's just two things to look at as being good moving forward. The other thing I want to call to your attention specifically is the State Historic Preservation Office and our National Historic Registry Places consultant team is going to be here November 8th. It is not required for the DDA board to meet with them, but if members of the board are interested in seeing what's going on with regards to that whole process, they will be here all day on the 8th, and we'll be doing at least one public meeting at that time.
Well, I'd appreciate if you can send an email reminder about that too, if you would, please.
So that's a Wednesday? You say it all day?
Well, they're going to be here all day. They're going to be doing some preliminary tours of the village and making initial notes, and then they want to meet with staff, and then they want to do at least one public meeting.
So you'll kind of let everybody know what time frame that might be?
As we get it scheduled, I will push that information out.
Awesome.
We need a motion?
I'll make a motion to receive and file.
I'll support, if that's okay. All right, so we have a motion by Basardi, support by Johnston. All in favor?
Aye.
Anybody against? Motion carries. New business, 89 South Washington sign grant application. I know, I thought, well, he said he was, but he's not moving.
No, I am not the applicant. However, I am the chair of the DDA Design Committee. We did meet last week, late last week, to review the plan. Before I go into any of the details, I just want to make it known to the DDA board that the Planning Commission already approved the plan for this sign. So that will be useful to you as you make your decision. After meeting and reviewing the plan, let it be known that Mr. Cloutier moved, Ms. Basardi seconded to approve the sign grant application presented by Walton Becker Eye Care, not to exceed $1,500 or 50% of the actual cost of the sign, whichever is the lesser of the two amounts. So you should have that proposal in front of you. It's our recommendation of committee that we approve this sign grant application. So it is my understanding that they had to go to the planning commission to get approval of the planning commission. The planning commission did sign off on the sign.
So we need a motion.
Motion?
Yep. So for the
Yeah, the
1,500?
letter is not in here either. Did you
No,
make
the
a
letter is not in here because Brian did the day job as library director, and I apologize. I didn't get it done. So that's why I'm here to
Okay.
present it in person. I apologize for that. I didn't have it.
Why didn't they do it?
Pardon?
Why didn't they do it?
Who's they? Well, because the letter that Sue is referring to, Ms. Basardi is referring to, is the memo of recommendation from the design committee. So the applicants would not have done that. The applicant did fill out the application and went through the special approval of the planning commission. They went through all of their process that they were supposed to go through. So the short part there is completely lays on me, because that memo would have come from me, not the applicant themselves. So don't hold that against the applicant. They did everything they were supposed to do.
What exactly were the words that the committee had in terms of approving the amount? What was the motion that you made?
The motion that was made, I made the motion at the committee level. I made the motion, Ms. Basardi seconded, to approve the sign grant application presented by Walton Becker Eye Care, not to exceed $1,500 or 50% of the actual cost of the sign, whichever is the lesser of the two. And at that time, we had a cost that, the actual cost of the sign that was being questioned. In the meantime, the DDA director had confirmed the amount of that sign. So $1,500 is the maximum amount that the one grant applicant can receive, but the overall sign cost of the sign far exceeds that mark.
Right.
So that's where we came up with the $1,500 mark, because that's the maximum amount that we would grant, but yet it is less than 50% of the total cost, because I think the total cost of the sign was a little over $8,000 roughly.
8,500.
Yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yes. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? So we
Make a
recommend,
motion?
obviously it's up to you, but our recommendation is to approve it.
We need a motion.
Just I'll make a motion that the sign is proposed for Doctors Walton and Becker Eye Care be approved not to exceed $1,500 towards the sign from DDA.
So I'll support.
Point of order, it has to be a specific amount if you're going to award the grant.
So you need to put that in your motion, the 1,500?
Yeah, 15, yeah, to not exceed 15. Do I have to have the exact?
1,500 is fine.
15 is
Okay,
all you
that's-
can get.
Okay, that's what I said.
And I'll
Do we need a
support.
roll call for,
Yes, please.
Sue Basardi,
Yes.
Brad Charles,
Yes.
Dorothy Johnston,
yes?
yes for me, Elgin Nichols?
Yes.
Okay.
Madam Chair, can I just interrupt for one moment? I also want to know, and I apologize for not saying this earlier, but this sign, actually, the design of the sign is a lot of what we talked about at the design level. It's the style that we are hoping that we can encourage other merchants to follow in the future. It's unique, very unique, in that it has a set of eyeglasses or spectacles attached to it. It's very, it's fun and unique and something different. And hopefully we can encourage other shop owners to follow that as we move forward in their specialty that they have.
Awesome.
Can I just piggyback on that and say that that was one of the reasons that the sign ordinance was changed to be able to accommodate these type of signs, and that the actual eyeglasses does not count towards your sign size. It's just the text part. So this is our first sign go-around under this new ordinance, which I think speaks highly of Becker's wanting to do something like this, because it's very expensive.
And we did vote, everybody said yes,
Yes.
so it was a completed motion from what I heard.
Okay.
Thank you. So next up is Mr. Weckel, with the PUD amendment.
Good evening, Dave Weckel, 7530 Woods Court. Actually, I assume everyone has this letter that Chris drafted for our planner. It tells us the whole story. He did a fine job. I had a couple of corrections I was going to call him with, but I didn't have time, so I would accept it like it is. But in a nutshell, we started planning on the buildings for the downtown southeast quadrant. We have proposed 3 new buildings to build over a 3-year period. Well, the first building was going to be the one on the corner of, you can see this, east corner of Mill and south of Burdick. We'll just say next to the post office, that's the easiest way. There is one house in between though. And when we started to do the planning, we realized that we weren't thinking far enough ahead, because one right across the street would have been left as an island. In other words, I would have been using the parking lot for equipment and materials, and I don't think the businesses in that area would be very happy with that. So we decided to do building B, which is 32 East Burdick, first. That way we have the equipment and materials stored on the other side, where there wouldn't be any interruption for any of the parking. Made sense to everybody, so we started the process in May. Here we are in October. It's taken us a while to get this far. It was approved at the Planning Commission level 2 months ago. Then it was rescinded last month because of the ambiguous agreement. In one area it said I needed to provide 114 spaces. I had a waiver for 12 spaces. I needed a waiver for 14 to comply with that area. Another area said that if I had any office in that building, I could not have residential. And it was all based on parking or supposed lack of parking. Well, at the time, we argued that the ordinance we were working under said 80% of the gross area or net usable area. That was chosen to be ignored and use 100% of building sizes. So it required more parking spaces than what really the current ordinance does. And I brought that to Chris's attention, and we looked at it, and in fact, it does require substantially less parking under the corrected ordinance, because that is ambiguous also. So everything's dotted and crossed now, I guess is the best way to say it. So we're looking for the DDA to approve an amendment that will allow a third story to be built. We have to eliminate one, I think it's a paragraph or a sentence in the document that states that sentence in this letter. The other thing I wanted to bring up is we didn't consider the reserved parking for the resident on the third floor. So we'd like to have 2 spaces reserved for that resident there at the curb. We had done that similar for the building across the street. We reserved 8 because there's 4 condos there, so 2 spaces per condo. And most importantly, I know I won't be able to get this done this year, but Detroit Edison needs an easement to relocate some poles, and I have to put some 3 different transformer boxes in. They won't start the work, and they won't even give me the price of what the work's going to cost until I have given them an easement. And I've signed mine, the properties that I own already, but I need the authority from the DDA, and they have a document. I don't know where it is anymore, but it's maybe in Bob Davis's office. It's out there somewhere.
Glenn has it.
Glenn has it.
It's in my office, and there's a copy of that easement request in the packet.
Okay, well, perfect.
And I have a copy.
And you have a copy, okay, well, that's out, so I need that signed, and I've already signed the amendment that Chris created. I think the village has that in their possession. So I'm ready to go. I hope to put footings in here real quick. My materials are 2 to 3 weeks out. I'm going to use the color palette on the brick selection. So if you want me to meet in the design committee or something, I can do that too. But I'll be using color palette colors. And then my mason I have reserved for 4 weeks out as of last week. So I'm hoping that we don't have the cold spell coming. I don't think we will. I want to get footings in, get the block construction started, and have it shelved by Christmas. That way we can, when it does get cold, we can be doing the inside work. Yes, sir.
Okay, I have a couple questions, I guess. I'm pretty familiar with what's going on. I watched every meeting. Yeah, I wondered why you're before us rather than the planning commission.
I'm going there tomorrow.
Okay, very good. The one thing too is that you have to do the parking spot or the parking lot first, correct?
No, I've actually applied for the demo permit today for the demolition of 42 East Birdie. The agreement states that I have to start it, and I cannot get any CFOs until it's completed.
Okay, when it's completed though, it's turned over to the DDA, deeded?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
there's our drawings have been very complete. It's been over a year ago, and all the legal descriptions are already created. So when we, I don't know if a title company will probably do the deed, I'm assuming. At that time, the DDA will be named, or the Village of Oxford will be named, whichever is the correct way to do it, for the new legal description of the parking lot. And then I'm doing a separate LC for each one of the buildings.
Okay, I understand also that the one thing came into question, that is the height of the building.
Correct.
40 feet is what the ordinance requires, and you
Correct.
had 40 feet 8 inches?
Yes, yeah, that was, we don't think it'll be 40 feet, but that's what we posted on the drawing, on the elevations, because again, in the agreement, the original agreement, it said that the elevations and the floor plans had to be approved by the planning commission prior to issuing of a permit.
Do you have the new site plan in place for the planning commission when you go to them? Has it been updated?
Site plan doesn't need to be amended, I don't believe. Go ahead, Chris.
Yes, I guess try to explain it. So the site plan actually has been amended because you added landscaping to it, but that didn't need to go back to the planning commission. That's already been approved.
Okay.
The elevations and floor plans, the planning commission gave approval, realized they shouldn't have because of this sentence in the agreement, rescinded that approval. Dave's going to be asking them to reissue that approval tomorrow night, contingent on the village council giving final approval of the revised agreement. And I have recommended in support of that request. So while it's a little bit, it turned out to be a little bit convoluted, certainly more than we'd like, in the next 24 hours, it should all be sort of resolved and ready to go to council in one neat package to be approved.
I certainly have no objection to this whatsoever, sitting on this board, and if I were on the planning commission, I'd want to push it through too. I think it's a great addition to the community.
Thank you.
Fred?
I like what Elton said, a good addition. Parking places reserved, Dave, are you telling me 10 or 8? I was not sure.
2.
You have 2 more?
No, just 2 of the 4 that are allocated to that building.
Okay, so a total of how many for all the buildings?
Oh, well, I
Probably.
think 92, I think, or 94. I'm providing 100 spaces, but with what comes with the property that we're making the swap on. Chris probably can tell you exactly.
Sure. The agreement allocates 100 spaces to the overall development. And then it says that 92 of those have to be allowed to be open to the general public. So that's 8 that Dave would be able to reserve for tenants. Now, slightly complicating that is that 4 of those 100 spaces are spaces in the southeast quadrant parking lot that already exist that are allocated to the empty lot at 32 East Burdick and therefore would be allocated to that building. I think it's kind of an open question as to whether the fact that they're allocated allows Dave to then reserve 2 of them. He and I haven't spoken on that issue, but
That's what I was addressing, because what
Yeah.
you're saying, you're confused with, I was confused with listening to.
I mean, I'm trying to decide if I think that requires an additional amendment, which obviously, we're so early in the amendment process that you guys could add that tonight if we feel like it does. It would just be one more line in the amendment document saying that Weckl is allowed to reserve up to 2 parking spaces of those 4, bringing, and I think
You
that
give
would be.
2 of the existing 4?
Yes, 2 of the existing 4. I think that would be fair, actually, because as Dave pointed out, when the agreement was first approved, the zoning ordinance calculation for required parking was 114 spaces. And since then, zoning ordinance has been changed, and now the zoning ordinance requirement is 94 spaces. So there's actually, instead of having 14 too few, he now has 6 too many.
And these are for residents?
Yeah,
Yeah,
the reserve would be
Not
for
for
residents.
like people working there, but for residents who live there. You put up a sign that says reserved for.
Correct.
Resident parking only. And then
Clear in my head.
we actually, the way the agreement works is he'd be prohibited from saying, this is for this business's customers only, or
Right,
anything like
that's-
that. Because the rest of it is
right.
your parking lot, not his.
Because you can just imagine other business owners saying, what's going on here? Why does he have this? You know, you can, I'm sure you've never heard those things before.
Never have. Separate, we get preferential treatment.
Yeah, so this would be, it'd be residents only. You can't reserve anything for businesses, employees, customers, anything like that. And I wouldn't support that. But on the resident side, I think it's fair. And maybe just to make sure it's clear, that should be added.
Should we
as
do
a
that
line
tonight,
in the
then?
amendment. And I would recommend you do that tonight. That way it's all taken care of. David's gonna have to sign another copy, but other than that, we haven't gone far enough for it to be a problem.
He used to play football. He told me that Walt Brown told him how to do that stuff, right?
Yes, he did.
Separate question, and it's just my memory, is the color palette you mentioned. You talking about the brick or just?
The exterior, first 2 stories are all split face block, and it's got some stripes around. I didn't know we were gonna have this particular meeting here because all my information's in my truck out in the parking lot. I should have got it. But anyway, I do have elevations that have been approved by the planning commission, and I'm happy to take the time to go get them now if you'd like, or meet your design committee and bring my sample board and make sure that the colors are acceptable to
The colors, and then part of what we keep hearing in all these meetings is the historic nature of the town. just the consistency of that theme. And even the meeting we had before this, that was a big part of the meeting. So do we have that kind of consistency so we don't have
Yes.
modern architecture or those flower pots they showed on the screen were modern?
I think the architecture is trending towards modern, my personal opinion. But it's all masonry, first of
Well, I
all.
mean, the trend comes and goes, that's why
Right.
things are classic.
Actually, this has all been covered in the planning commission.
I understand, I'm just asking to
Yeah.
refresh my
They
memory.
beat this up pretty bad.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I don't mind.
No, that's right, we can move on.
The elevations, I think they look awesome.
yes.
And like I say, I will meet with the design committee if you want me to go that direction with the colors, get it confirmed, because it's all special order material. It's 2 to 3 weeks out, so I'd like to get that resolved.
Come on, David, it's
As soon
construction, you
as
know
the
that.
planning commission says, okay, go ahead.
So can I just ask you a question, because I just want in my own mind be straight on what the change was. So did it have to do, because I thought it was initially going to be 3 stories, or was it always going to be 2?
It was going to be 3 stories if I did 2 stories of condos. The glitch was if I put office space
In the
in the
middle?
building, I couldn't have residential. Because at the time, there was concern about parking. Well, now with the ordinance being amended, I am above, I don't need those
Okay.
waiver
Got
that I
it.
did before.
Okay.
Because of what I'm providing. I'm a new parking lot, 55 new spaces and 5 more out in front of the building, so
Yep.
that's 60 brand new spaces that are going to be provided in addition to the building, so it's a pretty big development.
For the
Yeah.
lack of 1.5 parking spaces, they were going to deny it. Okay,
Really?
yeah.
I think, as Elgin said, it seems like the kind of thing the town
Yeah,
needs
for sure.
overall. Some
It's like
residents
where
living there,
everybody's going.
condos and stuff.
That sort of look and development, for sure.
Yeah,
All the towns. People want to live there and walk there and,
I actually I've had more requests for condos,
yep,
way more requests for condos than retail, I can tell you that.
yeah.
Well, good.
Office is going to be fine, but retail, I'm looking to DDA and One Stop Shop in Oakland County. We need to find some more businesses that
Right.
want to come to Oxford that are viable and can survive, it's hard in retail.
Yep.
Madam Chair, we've crafted a proposed new subparagraph 3, or item number 3, within the proposed amendment recycles. So that instead of having 7 sections, we have 8 subsections. If you look to your amendment dated September 21, 2017, the new section would read, Wacol may reserve 2 of 4 spaces for residential use of 32 East Burdick as referenced in section 15E of the existing agreement.
Okay. So does somebody else have to repeat what you just said? Make a motion?
You can hand it to him, I can read it.
There you
Humble
go.
Dorothy.
You're gonna make your motion?
Good luck reading
Notes and editing.
Yeah, real life.
Feel brave, so.
Okay, I make a motion to,
Accept the amendment.
to what?
Accept the amended amendment.
Accept the amended amendment and to say that Wacol may reserve 2 of 4 spaces for residential use as referenced in 15E
Yes.
of the existing agreement of 32 East Burdick.
I'll support.
So we have a motion by Basardi, supported by Nichols. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Against?
Aye, aye.
Motion carries.
No,
Thank you, David.
not
Yeah, you
done
want
yet.
more motion.
Do I need a motion to allow for the easement document to be executed by the DDA Executive Director on behalf of the board motion?
I'll make a motion to execute the easement agreement
I'll support that.
We have a motion by Basardi, supported by Charles. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Aye.
Motion carries.
One more. Dave also needs your permission to build 32 East Burdick before 36 East Burdick. That's not part of the amendment. He just needs you to make a motion giving permission.
I thought it was in the amendment.
It's not in the amendment.
No,
It doesn't
it's not.
need to be. The agreement says the DDA can let you change the phasing schedule.
I'll make a motion to allow Dave to build 32 East Burdick first.
So we have a motion by Basardi,
Support.
supported by Sure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And against? Motion carries.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yay, phew, moving forward,
Yeah,
lightning speed.
Maybe not so late.
we're gonna have a nice mild winter, too.
That was last year. I believe.
Yeah.
Two in a row.
Great.
Yeah, but spring was, first,
Dave, when you do your next project under the new zoning, we won't have to make changes.
Good, you're right.
be an ordinance.
Why we made the changes?
We have one more thing on our thing tonight, which is the National Register of Historic Places.
As referenced earlier, November 8th, a team of 5 from the state and 2 consultants from being in town. I will send out further details as they are determined. Just wanted to make sure that was on the record multiple times.
Glenn, a couple of questions.
Yes.
So give us the purpose they're coming here, survey buildings, or what's kind of the agenda?
The November 8th meeting is an initial, they're not familiar with Oxford, these are folks from Lansing who are traveling over, and folks from Jackson, who is where our consultant is. They're just going to do an initial walk around and assessment of the community. This is not a formal assessment of the historic district or historic structures. This is just a good feel for Oxford, and then host 1 or 2 public meetings to engage with people who might be interested in serving on that committee and inform them of the process that's going to occur over the next 6 months.
So right around the village, or the DDA district? Is there a defined territory they're looking at?
There was a proposed district. It's got to comprise a certain number of historically participating buildings. So we are kind of limited to our core downtown for the district. The intent behind this registry is to get the 20% tax credit for redevelopment, not to create a historic district commission and more regulations, but to get the tax incentives.
This is not a historic district in the sense that we're going to tell you what color you can paint your building and what kind of windows you can put in or anything. It's just to designate our historic buildings, like Glenn says, to be able to, if you're going to do construction, that you can get the tax credits.
Awesome.
Any more discussion? Board member comments? Let's start with you, Mr. Trout.
No comments, time to go?
Sweet.
I'd like to congratulate the winners of the chili competition at the Scarecrow Festival. The winners of the People's Choice were Sullivan's, and the Judge's Choice, the winners were 24th Street. So,
And the winners of the Scarecrow were, the fire department got 2 of the most unique and best use of recyclables, and
Williams Art Glass?
Williams Art Glass got the most unique. Yeah.
I'd like to thank Brian Cloutier again for providing the accommodations here tonight. And also hope that Dave Weckl has a very successful next couple of years in his construction. And I'd like to thank OCTV for being here tonight.
My pleasure.
Yep, thanks to everybody being here for a little bit longer of a night.
And I want to just thank everybody that's participated, not only in the M24 task force, but everybody's support tonight to get this M24 project off the ground and get it going. And I wish Dave the bestest of luck. And I too hope you have a mild winter to get it up. That's all.
All right, need a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, let's go.
Second? I don't even know who did that, so Charles, I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? We're out of here. Motion carries.
All righty.